The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal flower. Inside, representatives from 43 different species sat in their designated sections, each area designed for their specific biology. The Xanthir needed high-gravity platforms. The Luminae required light-filled chambers. The Kreth preferred their hive cluster seating, and the humans, the newest members, sat in a simple, elevated booth that looked almost plain compared to the others. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the human section's railing, her hands gripping the smooth metal surface so hard her knuckles turned white. She had been standing there for 3 hours, listening to the same arguments she had heard yesterday, and the day before that, and every day for the past 6 standard months. On the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber, red dots marked dying worlds. Each dot represented millions of lives. Each dot was a colony, a civilization, a home, and each dot was being consumed by the void swarm. I propose we establish a subcommittee to further study the swarm's movement patterns, Admiral Korvax announced. The Xanthir commander was massive, his scaled body gleaming under the chamber lights. His 4 arms gestured at the display with military precision. We need more data before committing forces. Chen Wei closed her eyes and counted to 10. Then 20. Then she stopped counting because it was not helping. Counselor Shimmering Dawn rose from the Luminae section. The crystalline being's body refracted light into rainbow patterns as she spoke. Violence only creates more violence. We should attempt diplomatic contact with the swarm. All intelligence can be reasoned with. The swarm does not communicate. Hive speaker Kielex Thar's voice came from the Kreeth section, translated from the clicking and buzzing of the insectoid language. It only consumes. Logic dictates we fortify core systems and abandon the rim territories. The mathematics are clear. We cannot save everyone. Chen Wei's eyes snapped open. Cannot or will not. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human section. Ambassador Chen Wei, the council arbiter said carefully. The arbiter was a floating sphere of energy, neither alive nor dead by conventional definitions. You have not been recognized to speak. Then I am requesting to be recognized, Chen Wei said flatly. The arbiter pulsed with consideration. Granted. You may speak. Chen Wei took a breath and stepped forward to the speaker's platform. The walk down felt like miles, even though it was only 100 meters. When she reached the center, surrounded by the 43 species of the Galactic Council, she looked up at the display of dying worlds. 6 months ago, the void swarm appeared at the galactic rim. In those 6 months, we have lost 17 colony worlds. The population losses are estimated at 400 million sentient beings. 400 million. She paused, letting the number sink in. And in those 6 months, this council has held 182 sessions. We have formed 14 study committees. We have drafted 57 response proposals, and we have done exactly nothing. Ambassador, we must be cautious, Admiral Korvax interjected. Military action requires planning, coordination, resource allocation. People are dying while you allocate resources. Chen Wei's voice rose. Yesterday, the refugee fleet from Harmony Station sent a distress call. They were carrying 2 million civilians, families, children. They begged for council protection. This chamber spent 6 hours debating which fleet was best positioned to respond. By the time you reached a vote, the swarm had already caught them. There were no survivors. Shimmering Dawn's light dimmed with sorrow. A tragedy, yes, but rushing into violence without understanding. Understanding? Chen Wei turned to face the Luminae counselor. What is there to understand? The swarm doesn't communicate. It doesn't negotiate. It finds populated worlds and it strips them bare. Every probe we have sent has been destroyed. Every attempt at contact has failed. At what point does understanding become an excuse for inaction? The ambassador forgets herself, a voice called from the Vexar section. Humanity has been part of this council for less than a decade. You do not have the experience or wisdom to what? To see that your committees are killing people? Chen Wei's hands clenched at her sides. My species may be young to the galactic community, but we know something about existential threats. We have faced extinction before. On our own world, when enemies came for us, we did not form committees. We acted. Hive speaker Klexis Thar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The human speaks from emotion, not logic. Emotion. Clouds. Judgment. Emotion? Chen Wei laughed, and there was no humor in it. You call it emotion. I call it giving a damn about the people we are supposed to protect. Every day we delay, more people die. And every day, you all sit here feeling very reasonable and very cautious while the galaxy burns. The chamber erupted in protests. Dozens of species began speaking at once, their translation systems creating a cacophony of sounds. The arbiter pulsed rapidly, trying to restore order. Admiral Korvax's voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Chen Wei, your passion is noted, but passion does not win wars. The Xanthir Empire has fought conflicts for 3,000 years. We know the cost of hasty action. Better to lose some worlds than to risk our entire military in an unprepared assault. Chen Wei looked up at the Xanthir commander. How many worlds are you willing to lose? 10? 20? 100? At what number does your caution become cowardice? The chamber went deathly quiet. Accusing a military commander of cowardice in the Galactic Council was nearly unthinkable. Korvax's scales darkened with anger, but his voice remained controlled. Humanity presumes much. Your species fields barely 300 military vessels, the smallest fleet in the Council. You have fought no major wars since joining the galactic community. You have no experience with threats of this scale. And yet you dare to lecture those who have protected the galaxy for millennia? I dare because someone has to, Chen Wei said quietly. I dare because every hour we waste here, families are being torn apart. I dare because protecting the galaxy should mean actually protecting it, not letting people die while you calculate acceptable losses. Shimmering dawn floated forward. Ambassador, please. I understand your frustration, but the Council exists to prevent rash action. Too many wars have started because someone acted without thinking. We must be better than our base instincts. We must choose peace whenever possible. There is no peace with the Void Swarm. Chen Wei's control finally snapped. It does not want territory. It does not want resources. It wants everything dead and consumed. How do you make peace with that? How do you negotiate with something that sees you as nothing but fuel for its machines? Note. She turned to address the entire chamber. I have sat in this room for 6 months. I have listened to every argument. I have read every proposal. I have participated in every debate, and I have watched the red dots multiply on that display. Each one represents a failure. Each one represents lives we could have saved if we had simply acted instead of deliberated. The human suggests we abandon the principles that have kept the galaxy stable for eons. A Korthan representative said, chaos and rash action lead only to greater destruction. Chen Wei pulled up her personal datapad and connected it to the chamber's main display. A new image appeared. A recording from a refugee ship. The footage was shaky. Filmed from inside an evacuation vessel. Through the windows, the Void Swarm drones could be seen approaching. They looked like chrome insects, each one the size of a small shuttle, moving with horrifying coordination. The people in the recording were crying. A Lumine child clung to its parent. A Kreth warrior held its younger sibling. A human family huddled together. The camera swung wildly as the ship tried to escape. Then the drones reached them. Chen Wei let it play for 10 seconds before cutting the feed. That was yesterday. While you debated, those people called for help. They believed the Galactic Council would protect them. They died believing in you. The silence in the chamber was absolute. I joined the diplomatic corps because I believed in this, Chen Wei continued. I believed that intelligent species working together could solve any problem. I believed that cooperation was stronger than conflict. But I am learning something terrible. Sometimes, cooperation becomes an excuse for cowardice. Sometimes, working together means everyone agrees to do nothing. Admiral Korvax stood. Then what do you propose, Ambassador? That we throw our fleets at the swarm, without planning? Without coordination? Military action requires time to organize. Time we do not have, Chen Wei said. The swarm is accelerating. The attacks are coming faster. In another month, we will lose 50 worlds instead of 17. In 2 months, 100. The longer we wait, the stronger it becomes. Every world it consumes adds to its resources, its manufacturing, its fleet. We are not being cautious. We are giving it time to become unstoppable. Hive speaker Clickstar clicked thoughtfully. The human's analysis has merit. The swarm's growth pattern is exponential. Delayed action may indeed prove more costly than immediate action. Finally, Chen Wei said. Someone willing to. However, Klexthar continued. The Kreth Collective maintains that fortification of core systems is the logical response. We should evacuate Rim territories in orderly fashion and establish defensive perimeters. This requires 6 months of planning. Minimum. Chen Wei stared at the Kreth speaker. 6 months. In 6 months, there will be nothing left to defend. That is speculation, Korvax said. We cannot make military decisions based on speculation. Everything in war is speculation. Chen Wei's frustration boiled over. You speculate that you will have time to plan. You speculate that the swarm will slow down. You speculate that your carefully calculated defensive perimeters will hold. The only thing that is not speculation is that people are dying right now while you speculate. The Arbiter pulsed. Ambassador Chen Wei, your point is noted. However, this council operates by consensus. We cannot authorize military action without agreement from at least 2/3 of member species. That is our law. That is our way. Your way is broken, Chen Wei said flatly. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Criticizing the council itself was considered the height of disrespect. I did not come here to insult you, Chen Wei said, her voice growing quieter, but somehow more forceful. I came here because I believed in what you represent. Unity. Cooperation. The idea that we are stronger together. But I was wrong about what that means. I thought it meant we would act together. Instead, it means we agree to fail together. She looked around at the assembled species. Some looked offended. Some looked thoughtful. Many looked uncomfortable. Earth submitted an emergency action proposal 3 weeks ago, Chen Wei said. A rapid response fleet to engage the swarm while you continue your deliberations. It required no resources from other council members. We would take the risk. We would pay the cost. All we asked was permission to act. That proposal has been in committee for 21 days. 21 days, while the swarm consumes more worlds. The proposal had complications, Korvax said carefully. Allowing individual species to take unilateral military action sets a dangerous precedent. Allown. Alex part. Alex part. Whither why? Alex part. More dangerous than extinction? Chen Wei asked. More dangerous than chaos, Shimmering Dawn said gently. If every species acts independently, there is no council. There is only conflict and competition. That path leads to the Dark Ages, before the council was formed. Chen Wei nodded slowly. I understand. The council's unity is more important than the people it is supposed to protect. The rules matter more than the lives. That is not what I said, Shimmering Dawn protested. But it is what you mean. Chenwei replied. You would rather let people die than risk the possibility that independent action might lead to problems later. You have all become so afraid of making mistakes that you have forgotten how to make decisions at all. She stood there for a long moment, looking at each section of the chamber in turn. Then she reached up and unpinned the badge of her office from her uniform, the small piece of metal that marked her as Earth's official representative to the Galactic Council. I have watched you debate for 6 months, she said quietly. I have listened to every argument for caution and patience and proper procedure. I have seen the cost of your deliberation counted in millions of lives. We thought joining the Galactic Council would make us part of something greater than ourselves. We thought we would gain the wisdom of elder species and the strength of unity. She placed the badge on the speaker's podium. We were wrong. We did not gain strength. We gained paralysis. We did not gain wisdom. We gained excuses. Earth submitted its proposal to help because we believed in the Council. But I see now that belief is misplaced. You will not act. You cannot act. Your own rules and fears have made you powerless. Ambassador, the Arbiter pulsed urgently. What are you saying? Chenwei looked up at the display of dying worlds one last time. Then, she looked directly at the Arbiter. I am saying that humanity is done, waiting for permission to do what is right. I am saying we are done watching people die while you form committees. I am saying that if the Galactic Council will not stop the Void Swarm, then Earth will. You cannot, Korvax began. We can and we will. Chenwei interrupted. Fine. We will do it ourselves. She turned and walked toward the exit. The entire chamber erupted in chaos behind her. Voices called out, some angry, some pleading, some shocked. The Arbiter tried to restore order, pulsing rapidly. Chenwei did not look back. She walked out of the Galactic Council chamber with her head held high, leaving her badge and her patience behind. Outside, her aide waited with a concerned expression. Ambassador? What happened? Chenwei smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a decision and would not be turned from it. Contact Earth Command. Tell them to begin Operation Thunderhead. Tell them the Council had their chance. Now, it is our turn. But the Council has not authorized. The Council had 6 months to authorize action, Chenwei said, as they walked toward the shuttle bay. Millions died, waiting for them to decide. No more. Humanity tried it their way. Caution, deliberation, consensus. And all it got us was blood on our hands for waiting. Now, we try it our way. What is our way? The aide asked. Chenwei stepped into the shuttle. Through the window, she could see the Council station growing smaller as they pulled away. Somewhere in that crystal flower, 43 species were probably still debating what to do about humanity's declaration. Let them debate. Humanity was done talking. Our way is simple, she said. We see a problem. We fix it. We see people who need help. We help them. And if someone tells us we need permission to do the right thing, we tell them exactly what I told the Council. She strapped into her seat as the shuttle turned toward Earth's diplomatic vessel. Fine. We will do it ourselves. Earth's military command center was located deep beneath the mountains of Geneva. The facility had been built 200 years ago, when humanity first realized they were not alone in the universe. Back then, the humans had been terrified of alien invasion. Now they were preparing to save those same aliens from extinction. General Marcus Thompson stood in the operations center, watching 100 displays show the deployment of Earth's military assets. His gray hair and weathered face marked him as a veteran of the last major conflict Earth had faced, the resource wars of 40 years ago. He had hoped to retire without seeing another war. That hope died 6 months ago, when the Void Swarm appeared. Status report, he said calmly. All fleet elements are responding to the recall order, Commander Sarah Okonkwo replied. She was young for her rank, only 32. But she had proven herself in a dozen peacekeeping operations across human space. We will have 80% combat readiness Within 72 hours. The Council is trying to contact us, another officer reported. Admiral Korvax is demanding we stand down. He says we are violating Council military protocols. Thompson smiled grimly. Tell the Admiral that Earth appreciates his concern, but we are no longer requesting permission. Send the standard diplomatic response, and then block further Council transmissions. We have work to do. The officer hesitated. Sir. Blocking Council communications is a serious diplomatic incident. Less serious than letting more people die, Thompson said flatly. Execute the order. Across human space, the response to Ambassador Chen Wei's declaration was immediate. Military vessels abandoned their patrol routes and turned toward rally points. Civilian ships received emergency orders to prepare for conversion to support roles. And on Mars, the great shipyards that had been operating at half capacity suddenly burned with the light of round-the-clock production. Dr. James Park stood in the main engineering bay of the Mars facility, watching robots and human workers swarm over a half-finished destroyer. He was short, wore thick glasses even though his eyes could have been fixed, and had not slept in 36 hours. He was also the man responsible for making General Thompson's impossible orders into reality. You want me to do what? He had asked when he received the assignment. Convert civilian vessels for combat operations, the order read. Timeline. 3 days. Park had laughed. Then he realized they were serious. Then he stopped laughing and started working. Now, 3 days later, he looked at what they had accomplished. Cargo haulers had been fitted with missile tubes. Passenger liners now carried point defense systems. Mining ships had their industrial lasers recalibrated for combat. It was ugly. It violated 17 safety regulations. And it would absolutely work. How many will we lose? His assistant asked quietly. Park did not look away from the ships. All the ones we do not finish in time. So, we finish them all. On New Jakarta, a frontier colony of 2 million souls, the warning sirens had been wailing for 6 hours. Administrator Liu Chen stood in the planetary command center, watching the void swarm approach on long-range sensors. The chrome drones moved through space like a swarm of locusts, and they were 3 hours away. The Council fleet? She asked, already knowing the answer. No response to our distress signals, her communications officer said. They are still debating our request for assistance. Liu closed her eyes. And Earth? Earth's nearest fleet is 12 hours away at maximum speed. Then we are dead, someone whispered. No, Liu said firmly. We are not dead yet. Begin emergency evacuation protocols. Get everyone to the spaceports. Every ship that can fly leaves immediately. Cargo, passenger, private, industrial, I do not care. Administrator, we do not have enough ships for everyone, the officer protested. Then we make do with what we have, Liu snapped. Start loading. Now. The evacuation of New Jakarta was chaos. There was no other word for it. People ran through the streets carrying whatever they could grab. Children cried. Parents searched desperately for their families. And overhead, the first civilian ships began lifting off, their holds packed far beyond safe capacity. In orbit, Captain Sarah Okonkwo watched the scene unfold on her displays. Her task force had pushed their engines beyond safe limits to arrive early. They were still 3 hours away from New Jakarta. 3 hours they might not have. Ma'am, we are detecting void swarm elements approaching the colony, her sensor officer reported. They are beginning atmospheric entry. Okonkwo's jaw tightened. They were too late. But too late did not mean they could not still help. All ships, maximum burn. I want us in weapons range in 90 minutes. And someone get me a direct link to the colony's administrator. Liu's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, alarms blared, and people shouted. Captain Okonkwo. Earth's fleet is here? Negative, Administrator. We are still 3 hours out, but we are coming and we are coming fast. 3 hours, Liu said hollowly. Captain, they are already here. The swarm is in our atmosphere. Then you buy us time. Okonkwo said firmly. Every minute you hold out is another ship that escapes. Every minute is more lives saved. Can you do that? Liu looked at something off-screen. Okonkwo could hear explosions in the background. Captain, I am a civilian administrator. I have no military training. I do not know how to fight. You do not have to know how to fight, Okonkwo replied. You just have to know how to not give up. Keep those people moving. Keep those ships launching. We will handle the rest when we arrive. The connection cut out as another explosion rocked the command center. Okonkwo turned to her crew. Helm, I said, maximum burn. That means if the engines are not screaming, you are not pushing hard enough. Ma'am, we are already exceeding safe operational limits by 40%, the helmsman protested. Then exceed them by 50%, Okonkwo ordered. We have people dying down there. Push harder. On New Jakarta, the Void Swarm descended on the spaceport like a metallic plague. The drones were each about the size of a ground car, moving with perfect coordination, cutting through any structure that got in their way. They were not interested in the people. Not yet. First they would secure the area. Then they would begin harvesting. A security officer named Marcus Webb stood at the spaceport's main gate with a plasma rifle that was designed for crowd control, not combat. Next to him, a dozen other security personnel held similar weapons. Behind them, thousands of civilians were still boarding ships. We cannot stop them, someone said. We do not have to stop them, Webb replied. We just have to slow them down. The first drone came around the corner. Webb opened fire. The plasma bolt struck the drone's armor and left a black scorch mark. The drone did not even slow down. It raised a cutting laser and fired back. Webb dove aside as the beam carved through the wall where he had been standing. Spread out. Do not let them target you easily. The security team scattered, firing as they moved. Their weapons barely scratched the swarm drones. But each drone they managed to distract was a drone that was not cutting into the evacuation ships. Each second they delayed was another civilian making it aboard. Behind them, a transport ship roared to life and lifted off, packed with refugees. Then another, then another. Webb's rifle overheated. He dropped it and grabbed a discarded piece of metal rebar. If shooting them does not work, then we get creative. He ran at the nearest drone and jammed the rebar into what looked like a sensor cluster. The drone spun, trying to dislodge him. Webb held on, screaming curses at the machine. Another security officer saw what he was doing and grabbed an emergency fire suppression unit. The foam sprayed over 3 drones, not damaging them, but obscuring their sensors. They began firing blindly, hitting each other more than their targets. It was desperate. It was stupid. It should not have worked. But it bought time. Above the planet, Captain Okonkwo's task force dropped out of hyperspace like an avenging angel. All weapons free. Target those swarm elements and light them up. Earth's warships were smaller than the vessels fielded by the Galactic Council's major powers. They carried fewer heavy guns and less armor. What they had was speed, maneuverability, and crews trained to think outside standard military doctrine. Swarm drones are adapting to our firing patterns, the weapons officer reported. Then stop using patterns, Okonkwo ordered. All ships, free engagement. Captains choose their own attack vectors. Confuse them. The Earth fleet scattered. Instead of maintaining the tight formation that Council military doctrine demanded, each ship picked its own approach. Some came in high, some low, some sideways. They fired when they had clear shots, then broke off before the swarm could target them effectively. It looked like chaos. To the Void Swarm's mathematical intelligence, it was chaos. The drones were designed to counter organized military tactics. They had been built by analyzing thousands of battles fought by logical species following logical military doctrine. They were not prepared for humans who threw away the rulebook. Drone formation is breaking up, the sensor officer reported with surprise. They are trying to adapt, but our irregular attack patterns are creating gaps in their coordination. Press the advantage, Okonkwo ordered. All ships, focus fire on the drones near the spaceport. Our people are still down there. On the ground, Marcus Webb had been knocked down by a drone's physical strike. His vision was blurry, and his ribs felt broken. He looked up to see the drone preparing to finish him. Then the sky turned white as an Earth destroyer's railgun rounds turned the area into a hellstorm of kinetic strikes. When the dust cleared, the drone above Webb had been reduced to scrap metal. He laughed, which hurt his ribs even more, and keyed his communicator. Captain Okonkwo? This is Security Officer Webb. That was beautiful. Get those civilians loaded, Officer Webb. Okonkwo's voice came back. We are clearing you a path. The evacuation continued for another 4 hours. The Earth fleet maintained a running battle with Void Swarm reinforcements, while the last ships lifted off from New Jakarta. When the final transport cleared the atmosphere, Captain Okonkwo conducted a damage assessment. We lost 7 ships, her executive officer reported. Another 12 have significant damage. Casualties are estimated at 800 personnel. 800 dead. But they had saved nearly 2 million civilians. The mathematics were clear, but the cost still hurt. Ma'am, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command, the communications officer said. General Thompson wants to speak with you. The general's weathered face appeared on the screen. Captain Okonkwo, well done. You saved a lot of lives today. At significant cost, sir. All victory has cost, Thompson replied. But you did something more important than just win a battle. You proved that the swarm can be fought. You proved that humans can make a difference. The Galactic Council is in an uproar. Half of them are calling us reckless. The other half is asking for our tactical data. Okonkwo smiled slightly. What do we tell them, sir? We tell them they had their chance to help. They chose committees instead of action. So, now, we show them what action looks like. The swarm will adapt to our tactics eventually, Okonkwo warned. What we did today worked because they did not expect it. Next time, they will be ready. Then we adapt faster than they do, Thompson said. That is the human advantage, Captain. We do not have the biggest ships or the most advanced technology, but we have something the swarm does not understand and the Council has forgotten. We have the ability to look at an impossible situation and say, fine, I will do it myself, and then actually do it. He paused. You have new orders, Captain. Take your fleet and find the swarm's next target. Get there first. Save as many as you can. Show the galaxy that Earth keeps its promises even when no one else will. Yes, sir, Okonkwo replied. What about the Council? Let them debate, Thompson said. Let them form their committees and submit their proposals. While they talk, we act. While they calculate acceptable losses, we save lives. And eventually, they will realize that humanity is not asking for permission anymore. The transmission ended. Okonkwo turned to her crew. You heard the general. Plot a course to the next colony in the swarm's path. Best possible speed. Ma'am, her executive officer said quietly. The Council will not overlook this. We have violated dozens of military protocols. We have ignored chain of command. Some will call this mutiny. Let them, Okonkwo said. When I joined Earth's military, I took an oath to protect humanity and our allies. I did not take an oath to wait for permission to do my duty. If following orders means letting people die, then I would rather be court-martialed than complicit. She looked around at her crew. Young faces, old faces, all determined. Does anyone have a problem with that? Crusade. No one spoke. They just returned to their stations and prepared for the next battle. Back on Earth, in the Geneva facility, General Thompson watched deployment reports scroll across his displays. Human forces were spreading across the frontier, moving toward void swarm targets. They were too few. They were outgunned. By every logical calculation, they should fail. But logic had never been humanity's strong suit. Determination was. Sir. An aide approached. The Galactic Council has issued a formal censure of Earth's military actions. They are demanding we cease operations immediately and submit to Council oversight. Thompson did not even look up from his displays. Noted. File it with the other complaints. Note. There are also reports coming in from across the galaxy, the aide continued. Other species are watching what we are doing. Some are calling us reckless. But others what? The aide smiled. Others are calling us heroes, sir. Calls are coming in from colonies we saved. Civilian ships are volunteering to help with evacuations. And there are rumors that some Galactic Council military officers are requesting transfers to human command. Thompson finally looked up. Are they now? Yes, sir. It seems that while the Council debates, individual soldiers are making their own decisions about where they want to stand. Good, Thompson said. Because this is just the beginning. The swarm thinks it can just consume the galaxy unopposed. The Council thinks humanity will fall back in line and wait for orders. They are both about to learn something important about humans. What is that, sir? Thompson smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen horror and decided to fight back anyway. When we say, fine, I will do it myself, we mean it. And once we start something, we do not stop until it is finished. Across the galaxy, the red dots on the map stopped spreading. For the first time in 6 months, the Void Swarm's advance had been halted. Not by Council fleets, not by carefully planned military operations, but by humans who looked at an impossible situation and decided that impossible just meant no one had tried hard enough yet. The chaos had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The research vessel Galileo drifted in the debris field of what used to be the colony world of New Brisbane. All around it, pieces of destroyed Void Swarm drones floated among the wreckage of buildings and ships. Dr. James Park stood in the observation deck, watching recovery teams bring in another captured drone piece. You are insane, Dr. Zyloth said beside him. The Luminae scientist's crystalline body pulsed with agitated colors. This is the third research team we have lost attempting to capture swarm components. The Council banned this research for good reason. The Council banned it because they were afraid. Park replied calmly. Fear is not the same as wisdom. Fear keeps us alive, Zyloth countered. The swarm's technology is designed to resist analysis. The drones self-destruct when captured. The last team that tried to disable those systems was vaporized. I know, Park said quietly. I authorized that mission. I will have to write letters to their families, explaining why their loved ones died. But you know what would be worse? Writing letters to billions of families explaining why we did not even try to understand our enemy. Down in the cargo bay, a containment field held the latest capture. It was a swarm drone about the size of a human, its chrome surface reflecting the harsh work lights. Even deactivated, it looked dangerous. Captain Lisa Rodriguez supervised the containment team. She was young, barely 25, and she volunteered for this duty, knowing the risks. Containment field is holding. Power source is still active inside the drone. Beginning scanning protocol. Azande. Park watched from the observation deck as the team worked. Every movement was careful. Every scan was documented. They were mapping the drone's internal systems one layer at a time, trying to understand how it functioned without triggering its self-destruct. Internal power source identified, Rodriguez reported. It is. I have never seen anything like this. The energy output is massive for its size. Forwarding data to the analysis team. Zyloth moved to a console and reviewed the incoming data. The colors pulsing through the scientist's body shifted from agitated orange to surprised blue. This is remarkable. The efficiency is beyond anything in council records. How did they achieve this? Way. As it. That is what we are here to find out, Park said. Every piece of information brings us closer to understanding how to stop them. The analysis continued for hours. Slowly, carefully, the team peeled back layers of the drone's design. And with each layer, Park's understanding of their enemy grew. It is a machine intelligence, he said finally. But not like our AI systems. This thing does not think creatively. It follows algorithms. Very complex, very sophisticated algorithms. But algorithms, nonetheless. Meaning? Rodriguez asked from the cargo bay. Meaning it is predictable, Park said. It analyzes enemy tactics, calculates optimal responses, and executes those responses with perfect efficiency. That is why it is so dangerous against conventional military forces. It learns their patterns and exploits them. But, Xyloth prompted, sensing there was more. But algorithms require data, Park smiled. They require patterns to analyze. What happens when you do not give it patterns? What happens when you act in ways that do not follow logical military doctrine? 1. The swarm struggles to respond, Xyloth said slowly, understanding dawning. That is why Captain Okonkwo's chaotic attack patterns were so effective at New Jakarta. The drones could not predict what she would do next because her tactics were not following standard military protocols. Exactly, Park said. The Void Swarm was built to fight logical enemies, species that follow established military doctrine, that fight in organized formations, that make decisions based on calculated risk assessment. It was not built to fight humans. Because humans are not logical? Xyloth asked. Because humans are creative, Park corrected. We can be logical when we want to be. But we can also throw logic out the window and try something completely insane just to see if it works. The swarm cannot predict that. It does not have the data to model that kind of behavior. Rodriguez's voice came over the communicator. Dr. Park, we are getting some interesting readings from the drone's communication systems. I think we can map the swarm's command structure. Send it up, Park ordered. The data appeared on his console. It showed a network of connections between drones, organized in a hierarchical structure. At the bottom were the individual combat units. Above them were coordinator nodes. And somewhere at the top, though they could not see it yet, was the central intelligence directing everything. It is like a pyramid, Park said. Remove the bottom layer, and the upper layers can rebuild it. But if we could reach the top, the whole structure would collapse. Xyloth finished. But the central intelligence will be heavily defended. It would require a massive assault to even reach it, or a small, unpredictable one, Park mused. Something so illogical that the swarm's defenses would not know how to respond. At Earth's military command, General Thompson was dealing with a different kind of chaos. The Galactic Council had officially censured humanity. The formal declaration stated that Earth's military actions violated a dozen different council regulations and represented a dangerous precedent of unilateral action. Thompson had the declaration framed and hung on his office wall. Sir, we are receiving requests from multiple council species, Commander Williams reported. They want copies of our tactical data from the New Jakarta operation. The same council that censured us? Thompson asked with amusement. Yes, sir. Apparently, while the council officially condemns our actions, individual military commanders are very interested in how we defeated the swarm so effectively. Send them the data, Thompson ordered. But redact the parts about our long-term strategy. Let them see what we did. They can figure out why we did it on their own time. Some of them want more than data, sir, Williams continued. We have 3 Xanthir commanders, 2 Luminae fleet coordinators, and even a Kreeth Hive speaker, requesting permission to embed observers with our forces. Thompson leaned back in his chair. Did they go through official council channels? No, sir. These are personal requests. Unofficially, It seems some council military officers are frustrated with their own leadership's inaction. Interesting, Thompson said. Very interesting. What does Ambassador Chen Wei think? The ambassador thinks we should allow it, sir. She says, and I quote, "The council's politicians are useless, but their soldiers remember what duty means." Thompson chuckled. The ambassador always had a way with words. All right. Approve the requests. But make it clear that any observers operate under Earth's military regulations, not council protocols. If they want to see how we fight, they follow our rules. At the Xanthir Empire's military academy on the homeworld of Xanth Prime, Admiral Korvax reviewed the tactical data from New Jakarta for the 15th time. As a military commander, he had spent 40 years studying warfare. He had read every great military text in galactic history. He had commanded fleets in a dozen peacekeeping operations, and watching the human attack patterns made his head hurt. They broke formation, he muttered. They ignored established attack vectors. They committed forces without proper support coordination. By every standard of military doctrine, they should have been destroyed. But they were not destroyed. They won. They saved 2 million civilians and defeated a void swarm assault force with minimal losses. They achieved what should have been impossible. Admiral, his aide entered the office. Your request to observe human military operations has been approved. Earth Command is assigning you to Captain Okonkwo's task force. Korvax's scaled face showed no expression, but internally, he felt something like excitement. When do I leave? Tomorrow, sir. But Admiral, the Council has not authorized this. Technically, you are taking personal leave to conduct unofficial observation. I am aware, Korvax said. If the Council asks, tell them I am on a research sabbatical, studying non-conventional warfare tactics, and if they order you to return, Korvax looked at the tactical data again. Then I will be too busy learning how humans achieve the impossible to respond to their messages. On the frontier world of Harmony's End, Private Marcus Webb was being decorated for his actions at New Jakarta. He stood at attention while General Thompson pinned a medal to his uniform. The ceremony was small, just his unit and some officers. Webb preferred it that way. Private Webb, Thompson said. You held a defensive position against Void Swarm forces for 4 hours with inadequate weapons and no support. You saved thousands of lives through your actions. Earth is proud of you. Just doing my job, sir. Webb said. Your job was to maintain security at a spaceport, Thompson replied with a slight smile. Fighting off an alien invasion with a plasma rifle and a piece of rebar was significantly beyond your job description, sir. Go ahead, Private. When those drones came at us, I was terrified, Webb admitted. I knew we could not stop them. Our weapons barely scratched their armor. By every logical assessment, we should have run. But behind us were families trying to escape. Children crying for their parents. People who trusted us to protect them. And I thought, if I run, they die. If I fight, maybe they live. It was not a complicated decision, sir. Thompson nodded. That is what makes you a good soldier, Private. Not your ability to follow orders. Your ability to do what is right, even when it terrifies you. After the ceremony, Webb returned to his quarters to find a message waiting. It was from Administrator Liu Chen of New Jakarta. The message was simple. Thank you. Because of you, my daughter is alive. Her name is Sophie. She is 5 years old. She draws pictures of brave soldiers now. I am sending you one. Attached was a child's drawing done in crayon. It showed a stick figure in a uniform holding what might have been a rifle or possibly a very thick stick. Behind the figure were other stick figures boarding a triangular ship. At the top of the page, in uneven letters, it said, "Thank you for saving my mommy." Webb stared at the drawing for a long time. Then he carefully pinned it to his wall next to his medal. Back at the Galileo, Dr. Park's team had made a breakthrough. By analyzing 17 captured drones, and 3 destroyed coordinator nodes, they had mapped enough of the swarm's communication network to make a startling discovery. It is all connected, Park explained to the assembled senior officers via holoconference. Every drone, every coordinator, every element of the swarm is linked back to a central intelligence. We cannot see where it is yet, but we know it exists. What does that mean for us tactically? Captain Okonkwo asked. It means the swarm is powerful, but inflexible, Park replied. It operates like a hive mind, which gives it perfect coordination, but also creates vulnerability. If we can disrupt the central intelligence, the entire swarm network might collapse. Might? General Thompson questioned. This is unprecedented technology, sir, Park admitted. We are making educated guesses based on incomplete data, but every analysis supports the same conclusion. The swarm has a central point of failure. We just have to find it and destroy it, Okonkwo added. That will be the difficult part, Dr. Zyloth interjected. The Luminae scientist had become an unofficial member of Park's team. The central intelligence will be heavily defended. It would require a fleet larger than anything humanity currently possesses, or it would require something the swarm cannot predict, Park said. Something so illogical that its defenses would not know how to respond. Something human. Thompson leaned forward. Dr. Park, are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? I am suggesting we stop trying to fight the swarm, using conventional military tactics, Park said. We already know that does not work well. What works is chaos, unpredictability, doing things that should not work, but somehow do, because the enemy cannot adapt fast enough. You want to formalize chaos, Okonkwo said slowly. Turn it into an actual military doctrine. I want to embrace what makes us human. Park corrected. The council species have forgotten how to improvise. They follow established procedures, because that is how things have always been done. But humanity has only been in space for 200 years. We do not have 1,000 years of military tradition telling us what is possible and what is not. That is our advantage. The council calls it recklessness, Thompson noted. Let them. Park shrugged. While they calculate acceptable losses and debate proper procedures, we save lives. While they follow doctrine, we make up new rules. While they try to predict the swarm's next move, we make moves the swarm cannot predict. A new voice entered the conversation. This is Admiral Korvax. I have just come aboard Captain Okonkwo's vessel. I would like to formally request permission to observe your operations. Admiral, Thompson said carefully, you are welcome here, but I should warn you that what we do goes against everything you have been taught about military operations. I am aware, Korvax replied. That is why I am here. The Xanthir Empire has lost 3 colonies, while our generals debated proper response protocols. I am tired of watching people die while we maintain proper military decorum. Teach me how humans fight, General Thompson. Teach me how you achieve victory when logic says you should fail. All right, Thompson said. Captain Okonkwo, the Admiral is your responsibility. Show him how we do things. Over the next weeks, humanity's new approach to warfare spread across the frontier. Council species that had been losing steadily to the Void Swarm began adopting human tactics. Formations broke up into smaller, more maneuverable units. Attack patterns became unpredictable. Ships started taking risks that military doctrine said were unacceptable, and it worked. The swarm's advance slowed, then stopped, then began to reverse as human-led forces retook territory that had been lost. In the Galactic Council chamber, the debate raged. Some species condemned humanity's methods as dangerous chaos. Others pointed to the results and asked why the Council had not tried such tactics themselves. Ambassador Chen Wei, who had been reinstated after New Jakarta despite never requesting reinstatement, watched the debate with tired satisfaction. You spent 6 months telling us to wait, she said when called to speak. We stopped waiting. You told us our methods were reckless. Our methods save lives. You told us to follow protocol. We followed our conscience instead. And now, finally, the swarm is being pushed back. Tell me, Council, which is more dangerous? Human chaos that saves lives, or Council order that lets people die? The chamber had no answer. Aboard Captain Okonkwo's flagship, Admiral Korvax observed his first human military operation. They were responding to a swarm attack on a mining colony. By Xanthir doctrine, the approach would be organized. Assign sectors, establish firing patterns, maintain formation discipline. The humans did none of that. Ships split off in different directions. Some attacked from above, some from below. One ship came in at an angle that made no tactical sense whatsoever. They were not following any pattern Korvax could identify. This is chaos, he said. This is jazz, Captain Okonkwo replied with a grin. Every player knows the basics, but we improvise the details. Watch. The swarm drones tried to adapt to the attack pattern. But there was no pattern to adapt to. Each human ship was essentially doing its own thing, coordinating through rapid communication rather than predetermined plans. The drone's algorithms could not process it fast enough. Within an hour, the swarm attack force was destroyed, and the colony was saved. How? Korvax asked. By every military principle, that should not have worked. Your formations were non-existent. Your attack vectors contradicted each other. You had no central coordination. We had exactly the right amount of coordination, Okonkwo corrected. Enough to work together, but not so much that we became predictable. The swarm is a machine intelligence. It thinks in algorithms. We do not. That is how we win. Korvax was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I need to contact the Xanthir High Command. We have been fighting this war wrong. We all have. Welcome to human military doctrine, Admiral, Okonkwo said. Or as we call it, the doctrine of acceptable madness. Rule 1. If it looks stupid, but works, it is not stupid. Rule 2. When in doubt, try something no one expects. Rule 3. Never do the same thing twice, if you can help it. And Rule 4? Korvax asked. Okonkwo's grin widened. When everyone tells you something is impossible, that just means no one has been crazy enough to try it yet. Back on Earth, Dr. Park was analyzing the latest intelligence when he saw it. The pattern he had been searching for was suddenly clear. The Void Swarm's central intelligence was not mobile. It was stationary, hidden in a region of space called the Abyss Cluster, a place so dangerous that no species had successfully mapped it. He immediately contacted General Thompson. Where? The Abyss Cluster. And sir, if we can reach it, we can end this war. Thompson was quiet for a moment. The Abyss Cluster is considered a dead zone. Every exploration mission sent there has been lost. The Council declared it off-limits 300 years ago. Perfect, Park said. Then the swarm will not expect us to try. Dr. Park, are you suggesting we attack the most heavily defended target in the galaxy, located in the most dangerous region of space, with a fleet that is already stretched thin across a dozen fronts? Yes, sir. That is exactly what I am suggesting. Thompson laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had just realized he was about to authorize an insane mission. Fine. I will brief the Council. They will tell us it is impossible. And then we will do it anyway. Park finished. Now you are thinking like a human, Doctor. The briefing room at Earth's military command was packed. Every major military leader in human space was present, either physically or via hologram. Admiral Korvax stood at the back, observing. Several other Council species representatives had also quietly joined, all of them watching with intense interest. General Thompson stood at the front of the room next to a massive display showing the Abyss Cluster. The region looked like a wound in space itself, a dark mass of unstable stars, gravitational anomalies, and radiation storms that made sensors useless. This is where we are going, Thompson said simply. The room erupted in questions. Thompson let them speak for a moment, then raised his hand for silence. I know what you are thinking, he continued. The Abyss Cluster is a death trap. Every species that has tried to explore it has lost ships. The Council banned travel there centuries ago, and now I am proposing we take our fleet straight into it to attack the Void Swarm's central intelligence. It sounds like suicide. And it is suicide, someone said. Probably, Thompson agreed. Our projections show a 90% casualty rate, maybe higher. This will be the most dangerous military operation humanity has ever attempted. Then why are we doing it? Captain Okonkwo asked. Because it is the only way to end this war, Dr. Park said, stepping forward. His presentation appeared on the display, showing the swarm's network structure. Every battle we win is temporary. Every colony we save is just delaying the inevitable. The swarm can replace its losses faster than we can. It will adapt to our tactics eventually. Our only chance is to go to the source and cut off the head. The central intelligence is located here. Park pointed to a spot deep in the Abyss Cluster. It is a massive structure, probably the size of a small moon. It coordinates every swarm element in the galaxy. Destroy it, and the entire network collapses. Probably, a voice emphasized. You said probably. You do not know for certain. No, Park admitted. I do not know for certain. But every analysis, every piece of data we have collected, points to the same conclusion. This is the swarm's weakness. This is how we win. Admiral Korvax spoke up from the back. I have reviewed Dr. Park's data. As a military strategist, I believe his analysis is sound. The central intelligence is the logical target. However, reaching it will require navigating the most hostile region of known space. Then breaking through defenses we cannot even estimate. All while operating at the extreme edge of our supply lines. The mission is... He paused, searching for the right word. The mission is the most human thing I have ever seen proposed. Completely insane and possibly brilliant. Thank you, Admiral, Thompson said dryly. Now, let me be clear about something. I am not ordering anyone to participate in this operation. Operation Last Light is voluntary. If you think it is suicide, you are probably right. If you want to stay behind, no one will think less of you. But if you come, understand that we might not come back. This is a one-way trip unless we succeed. The room was silent for a long moment. Then, Captain Okonkwo stood. I volunteer. My entire task force volunteers. My ship is in, another captain said. The engineering corps will go, Dr. Park added. Someone has to figure out how to actually destroy that central intelligence once we reach it. One by one, volunteers stood. Within 10 minutes, every human military asset was committed to the operation. What about us? Admiral Korvax asked. What about the Council forces? Wud. Thompson looked at the Xanthir commander. Admiral, this is not a Council operation. Officially, we are not even asking for Council approval. This is Earth acting unilaterally. Again, the Council will probably censure us. Again, we are used to it by now. That was not my question, Korvax said. I asked what about us, my ships, my crew. We have been learning from you for weeks now. We have seen how humans fight. Some of us would like to fight alongside you. The Council will never authorize it, Thompson said. Then we will do what you taught us, Korvax replied with something that might have been a smile on his scaled face. We will say, fine, I will do it myself, and we will do it. I have 3 battle groups under my command. They are yours if you will have them. I have 2 Lumine light carriers, another voice said. It was Counselor Shimmering Dawn, speaking via hologram. I have come to realize that sometimes peace must be defended. With force. My ships will join your fleet. The Kreeth Collective offers 4 hunter squadrons. Hive speaker Klexthar added. Logic dictates that individual survival is less important than species survival. Your plan, while carrying high individual risk, offers the best chance for species survival. We will participate. Thompson looked around the room at the assembled forces of multiple species, all volunteering for what might be a suicide mission. You all understand this is not a council operation? If we fail, your governments will disavow you. If we succeed, they will probably censure us anyway. We understand, Korvac said. Some things are more important than politics. Some things are worth fighting for, even if the politicians do not have the courage to authorize it. All right then, Thompson said. We have 2 weeks to prepare. Earth's shipyards are working around the clock to retrofit vessels for the journey. Dr. Park's team will brief all ship commanders on what we know about the Abyss cluster. And someone needs to figure out what we tell the council. Tell them the truth, Ambassador Chenwei said, entering the room. Tell them humanity is done waiting for permission to do what is right. Tell them we are going to end this war, with or without their approval. And tell them that any species that wants to help is welcome to join us. 2 weeks later, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled gathered at the edge of known space. 200 Earth vessels, 3 Xanthir battle groups, 2 Luminae carriers, 4 Kreth hunter squadrons, and a dozen ships from other species whose captains had volunteered against their government's orders. Captain Okonkwo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the destroyer, Indomitable, and looked at the fleet display. So many ships, so many people willing to risk everything on a desperate plan. Captain, her communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They are ordering us to stand down. They say this operation is unauthorized, and anyone participating will face charges. Acknowledged, Okonkwo said. Log the transmission and file it appropriately. Where would you like me to file it, ma'am? Under messages we received too late to respond to, Okonkwo replied with a slight smile. We are about to enter the Abyss cluster. Communication will be impossible anyway. Private Marcus Webb was aboard one of the marine transports. Around him, soldiers from multiple species checked their equipment and tried not to think about the casualty projections. Webb had volunteered immediately when he heard about the mission. After New Jakarta, after seeing what the swarm could do, he knew this was necessary. You scared? A young Marine asked him. Terrified, Webb admitted. But being scared is not a reason to not do something. It is just a reason to do it carefully. What if we do not come back? Webb thought about the drawing from Sophie, the 5-year-old girl whose mother he had helped save. Then we do not come back. But if we succeed, millions of kids like Sophie get to grow up safe. That is worth being afraid for. Dr. Park was aboard the science vessel Galileo, which had been hastily armed and reinforced for the journey. His team had spent 2 weeks analyzing everything they knew about the Abyss cluster and the swarm's central intelligence. They had developed 17 different plans for destroying the target. Park figured maybe 3 of them might actually work. Dr. Park, Dr. Zyloth said quietly, I wanted to thank you. For what? For teaching me something I thought I had forgotten, the Luminae scientist said. The Council has become so focused on preventing mistakes that we stopped trying new things. We became afraid of failure. But watching humanity, I remembered something important. The only real failure is not trying at all. That is very philosophical, Park said. I am a scientist, Zyloth replied. We are supposed to experiment, to try things that might not work, to push boundaries. Somewhere along the way, the Council forgot that. You reminded us. The fleet began moving. 200 ships, representing multiple species, all heading toward the one place in the galaxy everyone agreed was too dangerous to enter. The edge of the Abyss cluster looked like a wall of darkness. Sensors became unreliable. Navigation systems struggled with the gravitational anomalies, and the radiation levels were high enough that ships had to engage heavy shielding just to survive. All ships, this is General Thompson. The transmission came through to every vessel. We are entering the abyss. From this point forward, we maintain communication blackout. The swarm cannot hear us if we do not transmit. Stick to the mission plan. Follow your assigned vectors. And remember why we are here. Every person in this fleet volunteered. Every person here chose to stand up and fight. Whatever happens, you should be proud of that choice. Humanity is proud of you. The galaxy, whether it admits it or not, is proud of you. Thompson out. The fleet entered the darkness. The journey through the Abyss cluster was hell. Ships were lost to gravitational anomalies that appeared without warning. Radiation storms, damaged systems, and injured crew. And always, in the background, was the knowledge that the Void Swarm knew they were coming. Captain Okonkwo watched her fleet shrink. One ship lost to a radiation burst. 2 more to a gravitational whirlpool. Another to a malfunction caused by the hostile environment. Each loss was another crew. Another group of volunteers who would not see home again. Captain, her sensor officer said, I am detecting swarm elements ahead. Lots of them. How many is lots? Thousands, ma'am. Maybe tens of thousands. They are forming a defensive perimeter around something big. That would be our target, Okonkwo said. All ships, prepare for combat. This is it. The Void Swarm's defensive force was unlike anything they had faced before. These were not the small drones that attacked colonies. These were massive constructs, each one the size of a capital ship, bristling with weapons. And behind them, visible, now on long-range sensors, was the Central Intelligence itself. It was huge. A structure the size of a small moon. Dark metal covered in processing nodes and communication arrays. It pulsed with energy, coordinating the swarm's forces across the entire galaxy. Target identified, Admiral Korvax transmitted. All Xanthir elements, prepare for main assault. For every world lost, for every life taken, we will have our vengeance. Luminae carriers deploying fighters, Shimmering Dawn added. May the light guide our weapons. Kreeth squadrons engaging. Klexthar's clicking voice came through. All human elements, Okonkwo said. You know the drill. No patterns, no formations, just chaos and determination. Show them what humans do best. Show them what it means to say, fine, I will do it myself. All ships. Engage. The fleet crashed into the swarm's defenses like a wave hitting a wall. And the wall began to crack. The battle was unlike anything anyone had ever experienced. Human ships wove through the defenses, using unpredictable patterns. Xanthir battleships provided heavy fire support with their superior weapons. Luminae fighters moved with elegant precision. Creth hunters struck from unexpected angles. But the swarm was defending its heart. For every defensive construct destroyed, 2 more appeared. Ships began to fall. The destroyer Valiant was cut in half by concentrated fire. The Xanthir battleship Iron Will exploded in a ball of plasma. A Luminae carrier was overwhelmed and went dark. On the Indomitable, damage reports flooded in. Hull breach on Deck 7. Engineering reports, power fluctuations. Forward shields are down to 40%. Keep pushing, Okonkwo ordered. We did not come this far to quit now. Calm. Private Webb's transport took a direct hit. The ship shuddered, and alarms blared. We are losing pressure! Someone shouted. Seal the breaches, Webb ordered. Around him, Marines moved with practiced efficiency, emergency training taking over. They sealed bulkheads, rerouted power, and kept the ship together through sheer determination. Transport 7 is down, a voice came over the communications. Transport 12 is reporting critical damage. The casualties were mounting faster than anyone had projected. They had lost 40 ships just breaking through the first defensive layer. The Central Intelligence was still 2 layers away. Captain, Okonkwo's executive officer said quietly, we are not going to make it. The numbers are against us. Then we change the numbers, Okonkwo replied. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships. New plan. Stop trying to break through in formation. Scatter. Make them split their forces. Every ship becomes its own attack vector. Confuse them, disrupt their coordination, and create gaps for the science vessels to exploit. That is not the plan, someone protested. The plan is not working, Okonkwo shot back. We adapt, or we die. Move. The fleet scattered. Instead of a concentrated push, ships spread out in all directions, attacking from dozens of angles. The swarm's defenses, designed to counter organized assaults, struggled to adjust. It is working, the sensor officer reported. The defensive constructs are losing coordination. Code. Dr. Park watched from the Galileo as the fleet created chaos around the Central Intelligence. We need to get closer. That thing has to have a weak point. Every weak point is defended by thousands of swarm units, Dr. Xyloth pointed out. Then we need someone to clear a path, Park said. He opened a channel. Captain Okonkwo. This is Dr. Park. I need someone to punch through the defenses and give us a clear shot at the Central Intelligence. I need someone crazy enough to try what should be impossible. Okonkwo's laugh came back over the channel. Doctor, you are talking to a human fleet. We specialize in impossible. All ships, form up on the Indomitable. We are going to ram our way through. Captain, that is suicide, her executive officer said. Probably. Okonkwo agreed. But so was coming here in the first place. We have come too far to stop now. All power to forward shields. Set a collision course with the Central Intelligence. If we cannot shoot our way through, we will punch our way through. The Indomitable accelerated directly toward the Central Intelligence. Around it, other ships matched course. They were not trying to survive anymore. They were trying to create an opening. The swarm's defenses concentrated on the charging ships. Fire poured into them from every direction. Ships exploded, shields failed, hulls were torn apart. But they kept coming. Forward shields are gone. Someone reported on the Indomitable. Then use the hull as a shield, Okonkwo ordered. Do not stop. The destroyer hit the first defensive construct like a battering ram. Metal screamed. Systems exploded, but the ship kept moving. Behind it, the path was temporarily clear. Dr. Park, opening is available. Okonkwo transmitted. You have maybe 30 seconds before they seal it. The Galileo shot forward, following in the Indomitable's wake. Around them, ships exploded and died, but they kept the path open just long enough. Approaching Central Intelligence surface, Park reported. His hands flew over the controls as he scanned the structure, looking for access points, weak spots, anything we can exploit. 20 seconds, Xyloth warned. There. Park pointed at a massive communication array. That node coordinates everything. If we can overload it, we might be able to cascade the failure through the entire network. Might. This is the best I have got. Park snapped. Prepare the resonance pulse. The Galileo fired a modified scanning beam directly into the communication node. The beam was not designed as a weapon. It was a scientific instrument pushed far beyond safe parameters, pumped with enough power to make it either work or explode spectacularly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the node began to pulse erratically. Energy arced across the surface of the Central Intelligence. Systems began failing in cascading waves. It is working, Park shouted. The network is destabilizing, but the swarm was not giving up. Defensive constructs swarmed toward the Galileo. We will not survive long enough for the cascade to complete, Xyloth said calmly. Then we buy time, Park said. He opened a channel. Anyone still alive out there? We need covering fire on our position. This is Marcus Webb. A voice came back. Transport 4 is heavily damaged, but we are still flying. We will cover you. The marine transport, barely holding together, positioned itself between the Galileo and the incoming swarm units. Other damaged ships did the same, forming a shield of dying vessels around the science ship. "Hold the line," Webb ordered his crew. "Do not let anything through." On the Indomitable, Captain Okonkwo watched her ship die around her. "All hands. This is the captain. It has been an honor serving with you. Make sure those science nerds survive long enough to finish the job." She aimed her crippled destroyer at the largest concentration of swarm constructs and engaged the remaining engines. For Earth. For the Council. For every person who said we could not do it. The Indomitable exploded in the middle of the swarm defenses, taking dozens of constructs with it. Admiral Korvax watched from his damaged battleship. "The humans showed us how to fight. Now we show them we learned. All Xanthir elements. Final charge. Make them remember this day." His remaining ships drove forward, shields gone, weapons blazing until their power cores burned out. They fell one by one, but they kept the swarm occupied. "The cascade is reaching critical," Dr. Xyloth reported. "The central intelligence is losing cohesion." The massive structure began to tear itself apart. Energy discharges raced across its surface. Communication arrays exploded. Processing nodes went dark. And throughout the galaxy, every Void Swarm drone simultaneously went silent. In the cargo bay, the captured drone they had studied just stopped. Its power source shut down. Its systems went dark. "We did it," Park whispered. "It is over." But the Galileo was surrounded by swarm constructs that, while deactivating, were not dead yet. "We need immediate evac," Park transmitted. "Anyone who can still fly, get to our position." There was silence. Then a single ship appeared on sensors. It was a Kreth hunter, damaged and barely operational. "This is Hive Speaker Klex Thar. I am the last survivor of my squadron. Prepare for pickup." There, the Kreth vessel somehow managed to dock with the Galileo and transfer the science team before the swarm remnants closed in. As they pulled away, they watched the Central Intelligence complete its catastrophic failure, breaking apart in a cascade of explosions. "How many ships do we have left?" Park asked. Klexthar was silent for a moment, scanning. 31 vessels are still functional. Out of 217 that entered the abyss, 31 survivors, nearly 200 ships lost, thousands dead. But the Void Swarm was broken. All across the galaxy, drones were shutting down. Attacks were stopping. The war was over. "Was it worth it?" Xyloth asked quietly. Park looked at the ruins of the fleet around them. "Heroes. Ask the billions who will live because of what happened here. Ask the children who will grow up without fear of the swarm. Then tell me if it was worth it. The billions. The billions who will grow up. Then tell me if it was worth it." The survivors began the long journey home. Behind them, the Abyss Cluster was silent at last. 5 years after the Battle of the Abyss Cluster, the Galactic Council chamber looked different. It had been rebuilt, expanded to accommodate more species, and updated with new technology. But the biggest change was not in the architecture. It was in the people who filled it. Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the corridors toward the main chamber. Her hair had more gray now, and the lines around her eyes showed the weight of years spent rebuilding a shattered galaxy. But her step was still firm, her gaze still sharp. "Counselor Chen Wei," a young Luminae aide said, falling into step beside her. "The Council is ready for your report on the Outer Rim reconstruction efforts." "Counselor," Chen Wei said with a slight smile. "I still forget sometimes that I am not just an ambassador anymore. The permanent strategic seat given to Earth after the war had come with a promotion." Chen Wei was now one of the most powerful political figures in the galaxy, though she still thought of herself as a simple diplomat who had just wanted to help people. The council chamber was full when she entered. Representatives from 67 species now filled the space, twice the number from before the war. The crisis had brought new members into the fold, species that had realized isolation was no longer an option. But it was not just the number of members that had changed. It was how they worked. The endless committees were still there. But now, they actually made decisions. The debates still happened. But they led to action rather than more debates. The council had learned something from watching humans operate. Sometimes good enough now was better than perfect later. Councillor Chen Wei, the arbiter said, please present your report on reconstruction status. Chen Wei stepped to the speaker's platform, the same place where she had once stood in fury and frustration. The Outer Rim colonies have been successfully rebuilt. Populations have been restored to pre-war levels. Economic activity has returned to 85% of previous standards. We are on track for full recovery within 18 months. And the memorial? Someone asked. Completed last month, Chen Wei replied. It orbits the former location of the Void Swarm's central intelligence. Every name of every person lost in the war is inscribed. Human, Xanthier, Lumine, Kreth, and 43 other species. 40,000 human names among millions. The inscription reads, when no one else would act, they said, fine. I will do it myself. The galaxy owes them everything. The chamber was silent for a moment, remembering. Then the arbiter pulsed. The council recognizes the sacrifice made by all species during the war. We also recognize that the methods employed, while successful, represented a significant departure from established protocols. Has humanity's approach to military operations been properly integrated into council doctrine? Chen Wei smiled. Admiral Korvax would be better suited to answer that question. Admiral? Admiral Korvax stood from the Xanthier section. In the 5 years since the war, he had become the council's chief military strategist. His scales showed marks of honor earned in battle, and his voice carried an authority that came from experience rather than tradition. The integration has been successful, Korvax reported. The new combined military academies teach what we call the doctrine of flexible response. Students from all species learn both traditional military strategy and human-style adaptive tactics. The result is a military force that can be as organized or as chaotic as the situation requires. The doctrine of acceptable madness, someone said, using the unofficial name that had caught on among soldiers. Indeed, Korvax said, with what might have been amusement. Though I prefer to call it the doctrine of creative problem-solving. The core principle is simple. There is no single correct way to fight. Different situations require different approaches. Sometimes you need careful planning. Sometimes you need to throw the plan away and improvise. And this is being taught to all military personnel? A counselor asked. Not just military, Counselor Shimmering Dawn interjected. The Lumine had changed too. The crystalline being's colors were brighter now. Less passive. More determined. The principle has spread beyond military applications. Our medical facilities have adopted human-style rapid response teams. Our engineering corps use adaptive problem-solving methods. Even our diplomatic training now includes courses on creative negotiation. The humans called it thinking outside the box, Hive speaker Klexthar added. The Kreth had become strong advocates for the new way of doing things. Before the war, we Kreth prided ourselves on logic and calculation. We believed emotion was weakness. Humans taught us that emotion and logic are not opposites. They are partners. Passion gives us the will to act. Logic gives us the wisdom to act effectively. Chen Wei listened to the other counselors speak about how their species had changed. It was remarkable. 5 years ago, suggesting that the council learn from humanity would have been insulting. Now, they discussed it as naturally as they discussed trade agreements. There is one other matter, the arbiter said. We have received a distress signal from the outer reach. A new threat has emerged. Early reports suggest a hostile force expanding from unclaimed territory. They are attacking shipping lanes and isolated colonies. The chamber stirred with concern. Another threat? So soon after the last one? Initial projections suggest we have approximately 3 months before the threat reaches populated sectors, the arbiter continued. I am forming a study committee to analyze the situation and develop response proposals. We should have preliminary recommendations within 6 weeks. A young Luminae counselor interrupted, standing up. Respectfully, Arbiter. We should have recommendations within 6 weeks, not 3 months, and we should begin deploying scout forces immediately to gather more intelligence. The chamber went silent. Interrupting the Arbiter was bold. Suggesting faster timelines was even bolder. Chen Wei felt a surge of pride. That young Luminae had learned the lesson well. The Arbiter pulsed, considering. That would be highly irregular. Standard protocol requires. Standard protocol almost killed us last time, the young counselor said firmly. The humans taught us something important. Speed matters. Action matters. We can perfect our response while we act, but we cannot act while we perfect our planning. I move that we authorize immediate scout deployment and set a deadline of 6 weeks for response recommendations. I second the motion, Korvac said immediately. Third, Kleekstar added. The vote was quick. Overwhelming approval. The council had learned. After the session ended, Chen Wei found herself standing on one of the station's observation decks, looking out at the stars. So much had changed in 5 years. So many lives lost and saved. So many lessons learned. Counselor, a voice said behind her. She turned to find Dr. James Park. He looked older too, though he still wore the same thick glasses. I wanted to thank you. For what? For walking out of that council session 5 years ago, Park said. For saying fine, I will do it myself. For starting all of this. Billions of people are alive because you refused to wait for permission. I did not do it alone, Chen Wei said. Captain Okonkwo, General Thompson, you, Private Webb, and thousands of others. They were the ones who actually saved the galaxy. They followed your example, Park replied. You showed us that sometimes the most diplomatic thing you can do is stop being diplomatic. Sometimes helping people requires telling bureaucracy to get out of the way. Chen Wei smiled. Is there a reason you came to find me, Doctor? Or did you just want to wax philosophical? Actually, I wanted to show you something, Park said. He pulled out a data pad and displayed an image. It was a classroom full of young beings from multiple species. This is the first graduating class of the Combined Sciences Academy. Human, Xanthir, Luminae, Kreth, and a dozen others. All learning together. They are being taught to question assumptions, to try new approaches, to never accept that something is impossible just because it has not been done before. Human principles, Chen Wei said. Universal principles, Park corrected. Humans just remembered them when everyone else had forgotten. Look at this. He scrolled to another image. It showed a Xanthir student working with a human student on some kind of engineering project. The design was chaotic, combining elegant Xanthir precision with messy human innovation. 50 years ago, this would have been impossible, Park said. Different species worked separately, each following their own methods. Now we work together, combining the best of all approaches. The galaxy is not becoming more human. It is becoming more everything. Chen Wei looked at the image for a long time. You know what the ironic part is? All we wanted was for the Council to act. We never meant to change how the entire galaxy thinks. The best changes are usually accidental, Park said. They stood in companionable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled alongside Xanthir battleships and Luminae carriers. Former enemies worked together. Former strangers became friends. All because someone had been brave enough to say the word that changed everything. Fine. On the frontier world of New Jakarta, now fully rebuilt, Administrator Liu Chen stood with her daughter Sophie at the dedication ceremony for a new monument. Sophie was 10 years old now, bright and curious, with no memory of the terror she had lived through as a child. The monument was a statue of a human soldier, holding a rifle in one hand while helping a child with the other. The plaque at its base read, to Private Marcus Webb, and all those who stood between danger and the innocent. Their courage saved us. Their sacrifice defined us. Their example guides us. Did you know him, Mama? Sophie asked. Yes, Liu said. He saved our lives. He was terrified and facing impossible odds. But he stood his ground anyway, because people needed him. Is he a hero? Liu thought about that. He would say he was just doing his job. But yes, sweetheart, he was a hero. They all were. Sophie looked up at the statue thoughtfully. When I grow up, I want to help people like he did. Then you will, Liu said simply. That is what he fought for. So kids like you could grow up and choose to make the galaxy better. At Earth's military academy, the new class of officer candidates sat in a lecture hall, listening to General Marcus Thompson. He was retired now, but he still taught occasional courses on military history and tactics. The Battle of the Abyss Cluster should have failed, he told the students. By every strategic calculation, we were doomed. We were outnumbered, outgunned, operating in hostile territory, with limited supplies and no support. Any rational analysis said we would be destroyed. He paused, letting that sink in. The class was mixed species now, human and alien students learning together. So why did we succeed? Thompson asked. A young Xanthir student raised a hand. Because humans do not follow rational analysis? Sir? Partially, Thompson said. But it is more than that. We succeeded because we were willing to try something everyone said was impossible. We succeeded because we adapted when our plans failed. We succeeded because every person in that fleet chose to be there, chose to fight, chose to risk everything for something bigger than themselves. He brought up a display showing the fleet entering the Abyss Cluster. This was not a story about human superiority. It was a story about what happens when determination meets creativity, when courage meets cooperation, when different species stop competing and start combining their strengths. A human student spoke up. Sir, do you ever regret the decision to go to the Abyss? All those lives lost? None. Thompson was quiet for a moment. I regret every life lost. Every casualty report feels like a failure. But no, I do not regret the decision. Because the alternative was watching the galaxy die slowly while we waited for a better option. Sometimes you have to choose between terrible and catastrophic, and you choose terrible because at least it gives you a chance. Is that what we are being trained for? Another student asked. To make terrible choices? You are being trained to make hard choices, Thompson corrected. To look at impossible situations and find solutions. To question assumptions and try new approaches. And most importantly, to remember that your job is not to follow orders blindly. Your job is to protect people and serve something larger than yourself. If that sometimes means saying, fine, I will do it myself, and ignoring the chain of command, then, so be it. He smiled at their shocked expressions. Do not worry. You will not be court-martialed for thinking independently. Not anymore. The galaxy learned that creativity is more valuable than obedience. Just try to be smart about when you rebel. In a park on Mars, an old woman sat on a bench feeding small Earth birds that had been introduced to the terraformed world. Her name was Sarah Okonkwo, former captain, retired admiral, and now just someone enjoying a peaceful afternoon. A young girl approached her shyly. Excuse me, are you Admiral Okonkwo? I used to be, Sarah said with a smile. Now I am just Sarah. What is your name? Jessica, the girl said. We are learning about the Void Swarm War in school. You were the captain of the Indomitable. You sacrificed your ship to create an opening for the science vessels. Ah, Sarah said. You make it sound very heroic. At the time, it just felt like the only option available. Were you scared? Terrified, Sarah admitted. But being scared is not a good reason to not do something that needs doing. Jessica sat down on the bench next to her. My teacher says humans changed the galaxy. She says we taught everyone else how to fight. 7 people. Sarah considered that. I would say we reminded everyone else of something they had forgotten. Every species has the capacity for courage. Every species can be creative and determined. Humans just happened to be the ones who still remembered those things because we were new to the galactic community. We had not been worn down by centuries of tradition and bureaucracy yet. So other species can be like humans? Other species can be like themselves, Sarah corrected. The best version of themselves. That is the real lesson. You do not need to be human to be brave. You do not need to be human to try the impossible. You just need to care enough to act. Jessica thought about that. I want to join the council fleet when I grow up. Then study hard, train well, and remember something important, Sarah said. The galaxy does not need more people who follow orders without thinking. It needs people who know when to follow the rules and when to break them. People who look at a problem and ask, how do I fix this? Instead of, is someone going to tell me what to do? Fine, I will do it myself, Jessica said, testing out the famous phrase. Sarah laughed. Exactly. Now go on. Your parents are probably looking for you. As the girl ran off, Sarah thought about the war, about the friends lost, about the galaxy that had emerged from the ashes. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems, still people who needed help. But it was better. And it would continue to get better, because a new generation was learning the right lessons. Back at the Galactic Council, the emergency session about the new threat had concluded. Preliminary scout forces were already deploying. Analysis teams were gathering data, and response plans were being drafted with actual timelines attached. Chen Wei walked through the corridors, heading toward the human delegation quarters. She passed groups of mixed species working together, talking, laughing, arguing, council staff from different worlds collaborating naturally. Her communicator chimed. It was General Thompson, calling from Earth. Ambassador, he said. I heard about the council session. Word is spreading that a young Lumine counselor told the Arbiter that standard protocol almost killed us last time. She did, Chen Wei confirmed. And the council agreed with her. We are moving fast, planning smart, and acting decisively. Just like you taught us. Not me, Thompson said. You. You were the one who walked out of that chamber and said humanity would act. You started all of this. I just got tired of watching people die, Chen Wei said simply. And that, Thompson replied, is the most human thing anyone has ever said. Which is why it has become the most galactic thing anyone says now. The species that gets tired of watching people die and decides to do something about it. That is what we gave the galaxy. Not military tactics, not technology, just the willingness to look at a terrible situation and refuse to accept it. After the call ended, Chen Wei stood at the window of her quarters, looking out at the endless stars. 5 years ago, she had walked out of the council chamber in frustration, not knowing what would come next. She had just known that waiting was killing people, and action was necessary. That simple decision had changed everything. There was a knock at her door. She opened it to find the young Lumine counselor who had spoken up during the session. Counselor Chen Wei, the Lumine said. I wanted to introduce myself properly. My name is Bright Morning. I wanted to thank you. For what? For showing us that speaking up is not disrespectful, Bright Morning said. For teaching us that questioning authority is not rebellion. It is responsibility. 5 years ago, I watched you walk out of the council chamber on the historical recordings. I was just a student then, but I decided that day that if I ever had the opportunity to serve on the council, I would be like you. I would speak truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Chen Wei smiled. You did well today. But you know the council will not always agree with you. Sometimes you will be overruled. Sometimes you will be wrong. I know, Bright Morning said. But even when I am wrong, at least I will be acting instead of just debating. That is the human lesson. is it not? Better to try and fail than to never try at all. Not just a human lesson, Chen Wei said gently. That is a lesson for anyone who cares about making things better. Humans just happen to remember it when the galaxy needed reminding. After Bright Morning left, Chen Wei returned to the window. Tomorrow, there would be another challenge, another crisis, another problem that needed solving. But she felt confident that the galaxy could handle it. Because the galaxy had changed, not into something human, but into something better than it had been. People asked questions now instead of just accepting answers. Species cooperated creatively, instead of following rigid protocols. And when someone said, "We need to wait for proper authorization," there was always someone willing to stand up and say the words that had saved the galaxy. Fine, I will do it myself. Chen Wei smiled at her reflection in the window. Those words had become a battle cry, a philosophy, a reminder that action was better than inaction. And every time someone used them, every time someone decided to stop waiting and start doing, the galaxy became a little bit more like the place it should be. A place where courage mattered more than caution, where creativity trumped tradition, where the question was not, "Is this allowed?" but, "Is this right?" A galaxy that humans had not conquered or controlled, but had inspired. And that inspiration would echo through the ages, a gift from a young species to the older civilizations that had forgotten what it meant to simply care enough to act. In the years to come, there would be more threats, more challenges, more impossible situations. But now the galaxy knew what to do. They would face those challenges the way humans had taught them, with determination, with creativity, with the willingness to look at impossible odds and say one simple phrase, "Fine, I will do it myself." And then they would actually do it, together, all species, all worlds, united not by fear or force, but by the simple understanding that sometimes the most important thing you can do is decide that waiting is no longer acceptable. The galaxy that humans built was not made of human dominance. It was made of human spirit. And that spirit, once shared, could never be taken back. It would spread from species to species, generation to generation. A eternal flame, lit by those who refused to let the darkness win. That was humanity's real gift to the stars. Not weapons, or tactics, or technology. Just the courage to say enough, and the determination to back up those words with action. Chen Wei looked out at the stars and thought about Captain Okonkwo, General Thompson, Private Webb, Dr. Park, and the 40,000 humans who gave their lives to save a galaxy that had been too afraid to save itself. They would be remembered. Their sacrifice would never be forgotten. But more than that, their example would live on. In every person who refused to accept injustice. In every leader who chose action over caution. In every moment when someone looked at an impossible situation and made the choice that changed everything. The choice to stop waiting for permission to do what was right. The choice that echoed across the galaxy in 5 simple words. Fine. I will do it myself.